We have finished with the introduction of the topic Nazism and the rise of Hitler. Let us now move on to the birth of the Weimar Republic. Germany was a very powerful empire in the early years of the 20th century. Germany fought the First World War from 1914 to 1918 against the Allies. The Allies were England, France, and Russia. Germany fought the First World War very enthusiastically, thinking that it would be victorious. Initially, Germany did very well in the First World War by occupying France and Belgium. However, Germany was not able to defeat the Allies as US entered the First World War on the side of the Allies in 1917. And with the entry of the United States of America in the First World War, Germany and Austria lost the First World War. When Germany lost the First World War, the Emperor of Germany abdicated the throne of Germany. Abdicated means he left the throne of Germany. So, in Germany, many political parties were able to form the parliamentary form of government. In order to form the government in Germany after the First World War, the National Assembly of Germany met at Weimar and established a democratic constitution with a federal structure. Deputies were now elected to the German parliament. Deputies means ministers. The German parliament was known as the Reichstag. Now, this election to a new government in Germany was held on the basis of universal adult franchise. That means all adults, men and women, were given the right to vote. Now, this constitutional government, which was known as the Weimar Republic, was not accepted very well by the people of Germany. The reason why the people did not like this government was because Germany accepted the various conditions that were put on it by the winning nations. And Germany accepted this means the German government accepted it. At this time, the German government was the Weimar Republic. The Weimar Republic accepted the Treaty of Versailles, which was imposed on Germany after the First World War. This treaty was a very humiliating one. According to the Treaty of Versailles, Germany lost its overseas colonies. Losing its colonies means losing a tenth of its population. It also lost 13% of its territories. Germany lost 75% of its iron and 25% of its coal to France, Poland, Denmark, and Lithuania. This means that the coal mines and the iron mines, which were in the hands of the German Empire, were now distributed among France, Denmark, Poland, and Lithuania. The Allied powers, that is, England, France, US, demilitarized Germany. Demilitarized means they made the German military very small. And this demilitarization was done to weaken its power. The Treaty of Versailles also held Germany responsible for the war damages that the Allied countries suffered. Germany was forced to pay compensation amounting to £6 billion. The Allied armies also occupied the resource-rich Rhineland. That means the winning nations, those were the Allied nations, they occupied some territories that had lot of resources, like for example the Rhineland. Many Germans held the new Weimar Republic responsible for not only the defeat in the war but also for the disgrace at the Treaty of Versailles. Let us now move on to the effects of World War I. The war had a devastating effect on the entire continent. We are talking about the continent of Europe. This devastation was both psychologically as well as financially. From a continent of creditors, Europe now became a continent of debtors. That means Europe used to give a lot of loans to other countries. Now Europe had to pay back the loans which it had taken from other continents. Unfortunately, the Weimar Republic had to pay for the sins of the old empire. The Republic carried the burden of war guilt and national humiliation and was financially crippled by being forced to pay war compensation. Those who supported the Weimar Republic, mainly the socialists, Catholics, and Democrats, became easy targets of attack. They were mockingly called the November criminals. This mindset had a major effect on the political developments of the early 1930s. The First World War left a deep imprint on European society and polity. That means there was a great impact or effect of the First World War on the Europeans' society or on the social life of Europe as well as in the political field of Europe. Socialists came to be placed above the civilians. That means the soldiers were given a higher place in society than even the officers. Politicians and publicists laid great impact on the need for men to become more aggressive, strong, and masculine. The media glorified trench life. That means that the soldiers used to live in the trenches. Trenches are specially dug up places where soldiers used to hide. Now, these people who hid in these trenches, they were considered to be great heroes. So that is why we say that trench life was glorified. But the truth was that the soldiers lived a very miserable life in these trenches. The condition in the trenches was so bad that there were dead bodies, corpses in the trenches, and rats used to feed on these corpses or dead bodies as we would call them. The soldiers faced poisonous gas and enemy shelling and witnessed their ranks reducing rapidly. Aggressive war propaganda and national honor occupied a center stage in the public sphere. While the support grew for dictatorship that had recently come into being, democracy was still a very young and fragile idea which could not survive the instabilities of interwar Europe.